Hi, I'm Trish Stuart and we are back in my studio. Today I'm going to show you how to create just by using your regular decorative stitches in bobbin work. I'm starting out using this bee foot because it has a little groove in the backs. Because I'm doing bobbin work, it's a thicker thread, so this little bit of a groove is going to help as I'm sewing for it to glide underneath. If I would have used my regular foot where it was flat, then I might have a little more difficulty. So let me just attach this and we'll stitch out our first actually we're going to just do a straight stitch first because we need to check to see if the tension is correct in both the bottom and the top. So let me just pop this on and it's ready to go. You can see that the fabric I have here is just a regular old piece of cotton just for demonstration purposes, and I have a tearaway tearaway on here, and I've used a temporary fabric adhesive spray to stick the two together. Okay, you can see when you look at the straight stitching here that the bobbin thread is perfect, and so is the top thread tension. But as you go out and you start moving into a zigzag stitch, look how it's pulling the top thread down because the top thread tension may be too loose. So I tightened the top thread and it's a little better. So I tightened it again and it's a little bit better. And then I tightened it again and I realized I'm going to have to loosen my bobbin thread. So finally, after doing this a couple times, then I went ahead and loosened the bobbin, and look at what a difference that made. That looks much better. Then I went ahead and I came over to start doing decorative stitching. Now I want to emphasize that you want to do an open stitch. The beginning part that you see is done with what is actually on the machine, and then I went ahead and I lengthened this decorative stitch length. But you can see where it's pulling the top thread through to the bobbin. So probably the bobbin needs to be a little looser, or the top needs to be a little tighter. And go ahead and take a look at what the other ones are doing. You can see different types of stitches pull differently. And so even though you may be doing, like, look at this little flower, that's really pulling. But the one that was next to it wasn't pulling nearly as much on that top thread. This little flower, you can't even tell where the petals are because it's pulled the top thread through so hard. Now this one is a heart, and this one is not so bad. You see that the center of that heart has a decorative fill to it. Now because the bobbin and the top thread are almost adjusted perfectly, it's fairly flat. See how your zigzag, this is actually steps zigzag, and your snowflakes, they're still pulling, and you really need to adjust for those things. This open one is almost like your zigzag that I did at the very beginning, and it seems to be fine. So then what I did is I went back and I took my bobbin thread and I put it through the bypass slot so that it wasn't going in the tension rod at all. Now you can see I'm getting a lot more texture with my bobbin, and my top thread is not coming through like it was before. The little bits you see are perfectly fine. And look how nice that you see your actual petal shapes. And here you can actually see the petal shapes, where before when you saw this and the bobbin was going through the tension rods, you were not getting any of the shape of the flower at all. And let's see, our next design is, oh, this is the heart. Now look what happens when you use that with the heart. Because I don't have any tension on the bobbin at all, it's making a great big ball in the center where the fill is, which is another reason why you don't want to choose patterns with fill unless you really work with them. Now here we go. This is a really nice effect that we're getting by just bypassing that. We're using Razzle Dazzle here, and it's a fairly thick thread. So you can see how very nice that is. Comes out perfect now. Now I changed the thread just to a really thick rayon because I wanted you to see. I left all of the everything the same except that I put the rayon through the tension rod. And you see again, even though the rayon is a slicker thread, it's still pulling that thread. So I tightened my top tension. It wasn't enough. In the top one that you see there, I went ahead and I actually bypassed again the tension rod to get that effect. Now you see how the purple thread is overlapping? That is normal. Don't try to adjust your top thread so that your thread meets in the middle. The whole thing is your bobbin thread is so thick that it's not going to pull into the center of your fabric without creating a problem. So I think that if you play and you write down what, if you finally get to a point where, okay, this stitch looks great, then what you want to do is you want to write that down next to it so that when you come back to use that same thread again on a similar weight of fabric, that you know where to start testing it. And I hope you have a lot of fun. Bobbin work is so fun. Just really, really enjoy this using your decorative thread stitches.